particular, instructed Christians, this is the 3rd century, during a pestilence in Carthage. He said, "If we only do good to those who do good to us, what do we more than the heathens and publicans? If we are the children of God, who makes his sun to shine upon good and bad, and sends rain on the just and the unjust, let us prove it by our acts, by blessing those who curse us, and doing good to those who persecute us." Now there was a fellow named Pachomius in the Roman army in the early 4th century who was very impressed that at a time when famine and disease struck the army, who came out and helped them? Who came out and lent their undiscriminating assistance? It was those who believed in Christ. And here they were helping some of the very people who had persecuted them in the past. This amazed Pachomius. He wondered, what kind of religious tradition could it be that could inspire this kind of disinterested benevolence, in which you would indiscriminately do good, even to those who had done evil to you? He couldn't believe these people. So what do you think happened? He began investigating the faith. What is this all about? And before long, he himself was a convert. This is, in large part, how a great many Catholics have converted non-Catholics. It's not always by debating them into the church or bashing them over the head into the church, although, by the way, that's how I came in. People bashed me over the head over and over and said, "It's the one true church. What's the matter with you, you Lutheran?" And it made me think, and I came in. But other people have been brought into the church because Catholics have just niced them to death. They're just so nice to them all the time, they just can't take it anymore. Okay, I will look into this. How can you people be so good to me? And that's what brings them in. That's what brought in Pachomius. This is the great witness of Catholic charity. Now, as I say, it's always fun to see what anti-Catholics have to say. And there are many of them. But even anti-Catholics have admitted, as we'll see after the break, famous anti-Catholics have admitted that they don't know how to account for what the Catholic Church has done. They look at Mother Teresa, they don't know how to explain this without using a supernatural explanation. Well, let's go ahead and come on back after the break, and we're going to see some of the Church's most outspoken opponents and what they've had to say about Catholic charity. So come right back. Welcome back to the Catholic Church, builder of civilization. I'm Thomas Woods. Today we're talking about the extraordinary story of Catholic charity and arguing that in fact it's been far greater than even the Church's greatest friends, I think, have sometimes appreciated. So we've gone through and seen, for example, what the early Church Fathers did in terms of charity. I gave a few examples of that. Or we've seen in the Scriptures where Catholics are urged to display an exemplary degree of charity. We've seen how it contrasts with the attitude of the ancient world, in which charitable work was something to be done, in effect, for a reward, or to call attention to oneself. And even when you do have the example of a school of thought like the Stoics, that does seem to say you should do good without expecting a reward, they do it out of such an emotionless sense of duty that we almost would view it as dehumanizing today. And that's not what the Catholic Church calls for at all. Well, just before the break, I was pointing out that a great many of the Church's best-known opponents over the years have conceded this point about Catholic charity. So I'd like to make good on that promise and go through a few of them, because this is quite astonishing, what we hear. Voltaire was perhaps the most anti-Catholic French intellectual of the 18th century, and that is saying something. And yet even Voltaire had to admit that he could not get over the extraordinary sacrifice that women religious made in order to work in hospitals. These nuns and their good work were extraordinary to him. And so Voltaire actually said, "Perhaps there is nothing greater on earth than the sacrifice of youth and beauty, often of high birth, made by the gentle sex in order to work in hospitals for the relief of human misery."